All right, Morning Skate listeners, here's the deal. Between dodging pucks and heckling refs, you need a hydration game that keeps up. Enter Key Sparkling Water. Key's packed with real fruit and has the kind of fizz that laughs in the face of those other overcarbonated wannabes. It's like a slap shot of flavor right to your taste buds without turning you into a human flotation device. Isn't that nice? Whether you're in the locker room or just playing armchair coach, Key's your wingman. Zero added sugar because let's face it, you're sweet enough, especially when you're screaming at the TV. So if you need a refresh, skate on over to keysparklingwater.com and save 20% by using code TMS24. You can also find Key on Amazon, or if you're local to the Saratoga area, you can find at BurgerFi, Franklin Market, Fat Paulie's, and Capital Roots. That's Key Sparkling Water, phone, wallet, and key.
The countdown going on right now. Morrow up to Schultz. 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles?
Welcome to the morning skate.
Hell yeah, welcome to the Morning Skate. What's going on, guys? This is going to be a pretty cool episode because, as you guys know, I'm a huge Rangers fan, and I have one of the biggest Rangers personalities that I could possibly find to come on the pod. So, Jonny Lazarus, what's going on, buddy? How you doing?
Well, Jimmy, I appreciate the intro, and I appreciate you having me on. I know we've been talking about this for a while, so I'm super stoked that we finally got the time to do it.
I love it, dude. In the morning skate fashion, just procrastination just, tends to happen quite a bit. So I feel like we've been talking for a long time to do this. It's just been kind of like a long time coming, just like a little bit of cat and mouse game. We finally got you on, dude. That one's on me, so I apprate you.
No, you're good. We've been DMing for like what, a year now. I feel like going back and forth. It's
been really special. Yeah, dude.
Yeah. a good Twitter friendship.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so let's kind of get into it. We brought up the friendship thing, and like this is when I knew I was gonna like you. So I would always say to my boys, if like especially my Rangers like buddies, if we wanted to talk about the Rangers, be like, hey dude, let's talk some rags. So like we threw across some like ideas about maybe starting a potential podcast called Talkin Rags. I tweeted it out, and holy shit, people did not like that.
Why?
So that's my first question. Why do people get so salty about using the term rags? I don't understand it. Like people are like, oh, that's what Islanders or like Devils fans call it. Like, dude, if that's like a big problem to you, then you should probably just go get a Snickers, because I don't get it.
I don't really get it either, to be honest. You can refer to them in so many different ways. Like, I've said rags, blue shirts, like I guess the only one I haven't heard, which we can maybe start, is the Jers. Never heard that one.
Oh yeah.
That we can just, maybe it's got no legs right now. We can get that one going, just us two. But people do that. Like I've worn this hat now for like a week since I got it, and people have said like the Ners, the M's, like everyone it's just how we live, right? You just throw out little different phrases, but I don't know why anyone would be like annoyed or offended by that at all.
Maybe it's like a generational thing. Like maybe it's like the old man yelling at the cloud. Like back in the early 90s, it was just like the really not thing to say. I don't know. It's just like easier than being like, hey boys, you want to talk about Rangers? Or like, hey boys, you want to talk about the rags? It's just like a little bit quicker.
The rags is smooth. Yeah, I think it's smooth.
Yeah. Okay. So I feel good about that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So dude, let's kind of talk about like how you got into hockey. You've obviously played Division I. All these different things. So like, your stuff, but like growing up, how did you get into hockey? Did your parents play hockey? Your brother or siblings? I don't even know if you have siblings. So like, how did that happen?
Yeah, I have an older sister. She's 5 years older. My parents never played hockey. They didn't know shit about hockey. My dad does. My mom still doesn't really know shit about hockey. Actually, funny story. Like literally 2 weeks ago, my mom was on Instagram and there was, I forgot which account posted it, but someone posted like a Timo Meyer missing poster. And my mom was like, holy shit, like, is he okay? And I was like, Mom, it's a joke. It was pretty good. But yeah, like my cousin, Jason, was a huge Rangers fan growing up. My dad was in high school for all 4 years. The Islanders won the Cups in Long Island and Roslyn. He grew up. So I was kind of, and I tell people this all the time. I was kind of an Islander fan, like the first, like,
that's fair, dude.
Like years 5 to 7, I would say, of my life. I was an Islander fan, but not like a diehard or anything. Like I still watch the Rangers. Like I love Mark Messier, but like I didn't really have a team. I just had like, I had a Alexei Yashin jersey, a Joe Sakic jersey, a Mark Messier jersey.
The turtleneck, dude. The Alexei Yashin turtleneck. Yep.
But I just loved hockey, and that's how I am now. Like even like, I know a lot of people give me shit because I like, will publicly support the Devils or the Islanders. And I'm like, I like hockey more than I like the Rangers. Like that's just how I am. And my
I get
cousin,
that with Boston, dude. Like, I can just appreciate the type of players on their team. Like, everybody
yeah,
cheers for Marchand, but it's like you'd be an idiot if you wouldn't want that guy on the Rangers. Like, he's that good.
1000%,
Yeah, okay, I see where you're coming from.
1000%. But yeah, my cousin just kind of got me into it, and I watched Ranger games, from an early age, and kind of just went from there. But I was a big, like, dude, I think until I was 13, I wanted to play in the NBA. Like, I was a huge New York Knicks fan.
Oh,
Still
really?
am. Still am. Rangers, Knicks are really my two teams. I'll like support the Giants and the Mets, but I don't really care about the NFL or the MLB at all.
Yeah. Okay, so you're following the Islanders. When did you start playing hockey?
I think so. There's a picture of me and my sister. I think I'm 5 years old. I'm wearing her like Barbie roller skates in the basement. So
Count
she
it.
had skates before I did, and I played ice in kindergarten, but then I quit ice actually and jumped to roller. So I played roller till like 5th grade, and then my dad's best friend, who's like a family friend, we call him cousins, like one of those things,
Yeah.
He was like the manager of a travel ice hockey team, I guess. And he was like, why doesn't Johnny come out and practice and, figure it out from there? And yeah, in 5th grade, I started playing ice, and then, I fell in love with ice, and it was ice hockey ever since. So I was kind of like a late starter really
Mhm.
to ice hockey. Like I played in kindergarten, but not like competitively. It was just kind of like learn to skate stuff. But yeah, once I laced them up in 5th grade, it was really it. That's all I wanted to do.
When did you know you had a shot to like, carve out like a pretty cool little college career out of it? Like that's got to be so cool. Like the day that you were like, holy fuck, I'm playing D1, that had to have been unbelievable, right? Like not many people
Yeah.
get to say that.
No. I mean, to be fully transparent, I was a late bloomer. Like I didn't really know what junior hockey was till 9th grade, 10th grade.
Yep.
I didn't play AAA till freshman year of high school. Obviously I like always dreamed of playing in college, but I never really thought that I could. Like I was not a confident hockey player until I was probably 17. And that started when I played for the Metro Moose. It was like junior B out in Brooklyn. The MJHL it was called at the time. And I was pretty good on that team. Like, I started out in the 4th line, then like slowly moved my way up and started getting first line minutes, first line power play and stuff. And we played the New Jersey Rockets. They had Charlie McAvoy as their number 1 defense. And this kid, Nolan Abel, who was committed to Yale at the time, a good friend of mine, ended up playing at Brown. And Jeremy Bracco, who was drafted by the Toronto Maple Leafs. They were like a stacked team. And Penn State came to watch that game, not watch me. They came to watch, McAvoy, I think, and my teammate Paul Vella. And I ended up having a great game. And I talked to Penn State after that. And like, that's when
that had been so cool being able to talk to Penn State though. Like getting out the rink, be like, oh yeah, I'll talk to you.
Dude, it was unreal. And like being a kid from Long Island, like so many people I know go to Penn State, and it's such a fun school. I actually ended up visiting, but the next time they came to watch me play, I couldn't have been worse. And that was like where the conversation just died. So it was a pretty quick little exchange between Penn State and I, but that was the first time, like 11th grade, where I was like, oh, like I can, maybe play Division I.
That's pretty sick. And how was your experience playing D1? Was it just? It's got to be pretty cool. The players you're playing against, just it's got to be weird, right? Because I played club hockey. I played at Siena, so it's probably it's definitely less dedication than you would have playing like an NCAA sport. But it's still got to be pretty cool. Like, was it hard to separate yourself between being a hockey player and like being a student? Like, was there any kind of gray areas there or anything?
Well, that is the hardest thing. And, I think a lot of kids are different, and I don't want to say it's a huge problem, but my mentality was, my dream was just to play in college. Like I never really, like, obviously I'd be lying if I said I didn't want to play in the NHL, but I never really thought that was an attainable thing for me.
Right.
And maybe that's not the best way to think, but like, it was very hard at college because when you play Division I, you're asked to treat yourself like a pro. You have to make sure you watch everything you eat. You can't go out like a typical college student. It's a huge commitment and a huge sacrifice. And if you don't want to play in the NHL, it's very hard. Not that I didn't want to play in the NHL. Like I worked my ass off. I wanted to, but like I also didn't learn what hard work was until I got to college. Like there are guys waking up at 6 a.m. to work out before our team workouts, before our team practice. Like there are guys who really just take it to a whole different level when it comes to dieting, when it comes to, treating your body and recovery and everything that
being
goes
a pro.
Into being a pro. Yeah. And I didn't know any of it. Like I got exposed in college because not that I didn't work hard, but I didn't know what I didn't know when I was a kid. Like I just played hockey because I loved it. I didn't play like my parents didn't like wake me up at 5 a.m. to go skate before school. Like they didn't want me to, they didn't treat me like it was.
You were like a normal kid.
I was a kid. Yeah. Like,
yeah.
Like I always say like, and it's, I'm a little cheesy maybe, but I always say like, I wasn't a hockey player. I was a kid who played hockey. Like that's
Yeah.
really
That's so
how I
funny
just
you said that. One of my first coaches and I played for Hudson Valley, and that was like when he came in and he was pissed off one time. He's like, "You guys need to figure out if you want to be a hockey player or just somebody who plays hockey." And I was
yeah.
like, "Oh shit, dude." All right, man.
But that's, like not everyone is like that. And honestly, like I thank my parents all the time for not forcing it on me because I know so many kids who, their parents woke them up early in the mornings. They didn't have any social life, and guess what? Like they maybe made it to D1, but that was it for them. Like
Yeah.
we're all in the same spot now. Like luckily, my parents, like, I went to summer camp till I was like 16. Like I didn't like hockey wasn't my whole life,
Yeah.
and I think that's why I am where I am right now, just because like I was able to do other things and be a kid and not have so much pressure on my shoulders. Like I got very lucky, honestly. I really did.
I just almost that's like more impressive, dude, because I feel like most Division 1, or at least I would assume most like D1 hockey players have to be legitimate machines to get there. Like no matter what's going on, it's cool that you were kind of able to like do that, but also enjoy yourself at the same time. Actually, dude, did you see? I think I saw it yesterday on Instagram. Cornell, they have this thing where like they can't wear anything Cornell hockey related unless they're at the rink because their coaches say that, hey, listen, like when you're at the rink, like that's your job, you're a hockey player, but when you're out of the rink, like you're a student first. And I've never seen anything like that because like normally hockey players, dude, the moment you get the team apparel, like that's literally all you wear. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And these Cornell kids are talking about it. I'm like, well, that's probably not a school I'd go to, but at the same time, it was like kind of cool. It's like really, really preparing them for like anything beyond hockey. I just never seen anything like that.
I've never even heard. I didn't even hear that yesterday until you just pointed that out. So I had no idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, to your point, like as soon as I got school swag, that's all I wore.
Every single time, dude.
Yeah.
When I had to go back to Hudson Valley because I had to get my grades back up. So the lacrosse team there, they needed bodies. Never played lacrosse a day in my life. And they're like, "Hey, you want to play lacrosse?" And I was like, "Well, that's a lot of running." He's like, "Well, you can take faceoffs." I'm like, "Yep, deal." So I did it for like a week. Got the apparel, and then we had like a week-long 6 a.m. practices, and I was like, "Coach, thank you so much for the opportunity, but I think I'm just gonna take this sweatshirt." And he's like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yeah, thank you for the sweatshirt, like the 3/4 zip. I feel awesome, but this just is not for me." So
yeah, I respect
you
that.
play you play for the apparel sometime, and you just gotta be honest with people.
Yeah, I
So
respect that.
all right. So you grew up kind of an Islanders fan, then you really started watching.
Well, not really. I was not.
You know what I mean? For like 2 or 3
years.
years. Yeah. Okay, my bad. I take that back. What are like some of like your big Rangers moments, like growing up watching, like as a fan? Like for me, I put down some like examples. I remember when Tikkanen took a shot against the Panthers and it like hit the camera and bounced out, and there was like a 3-minute delay whether or not it went in. I remember when Brian Boyle deked Drew Doughty in the Stanley Cup and he ended up scoring. I think they were shorthanded. I'm like, there's no way we lose the cup now. Well, we did. Do you have like any memories that just really the Derek Stepan overtime winner against the Caps, like just like little moments like that growing up?
I mean, I still remember my first Ranger game. Like, I think it was 2002. The Rangers had Eric Lindros. They played against the Washington Capitals, and when Yager was in the Capitals, the game ended in like a 2-2 tie. My aunt took me, my cousin, and my dad. We went to ESPN Zone before the game, which was sick. Throwback to ESPN Zone. Great spot before Ranger games. Doesn't exist anymore. And I remember just sitting at the Garden, like for the first time, walking around like the little walkway too that was inside the seating. They used to have that where you can like kind of walk around like inside the arena, which is cool. If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But like as far as early memories go, like I kind of remember being in my basement, like watching Mark Messier, his last game. He scored that backhand goal, I think, against Buffalo. The Malik shootout move, obviously. I remember that day in my basement as well.
Yeah.
But like I think the one that sticks out most, honestly, this is something I don't know if I've ever confessed, actually.
Let's go.
So during the 2012 playoff game 6 against the Devils, I loved like throwing on my rollerblades in between periods, going out on the tennis court and fucking around with the puck, like, during intermissions and stuff.
I like that. Okay.
So I came back into the house and the Devils were celebrating. I missed the Henry goal because it was like a minute into the period. I missed the first minute of overtime. I didn't know that it was back on. Like you didn't get a push notification to your phone, like, hey, overtime starting. You kind of just had to like go based on your own instinct and read when to go back inside. So I skate back in, see on the TV the Devils celebrating, and I'm like, I was just like in shock. Like I could not believe what had happened. Granted, that's not an early Ranger memory. It's just like something that like sticks out.
So we kind of have something in common, dude. I was dating a girl at that time, and I was out in Rochester and we went camping. And I watched all the games that year, all the playoff games, but we had to go camping that day, so I didn't even get to fucking watch it, dude. It was awful. I got a call from my dad. He's like, "You're not gonna fucking believe what," like freaking out. I'm like, "Oh no!"
Yeah.
So we both missed it. Well, it's not really. I'm glad I missed it, dude. I would have been just absolutely heartbroken if I would have had to witness that, because like that was a hell of a year for the boys, dude. They were so good that year. That was a team that nobody wanted to play against, and it just hopefully we can kind of get back to the Cup final this year. But
yeah.
All right, so dude, what's it like being around the team? That's got to be like an unbelievable experience.
Yeah, I mean, listen, at first it was like, heart pumping through the chest every time you're around them. Now it's, it's definitely different now, and it's way more comfortable now.
How long did that take? Like to get from like kind of like I would be fanboying, dude, but like you can't exactly do that because you have to, keep it professional. But like I know what you mean, like heart beating, like holy shit, that's Artemi Panarin. Like, how long did it take for that to kind of go away, and now it's just everything is just status quo?
Honestly, the fanboy thing was never a thing for me.
I would have been losing it.
I'll tell you when it was though. So when I started probably with like 2 games left in the regular season last year, and I like being around. Like I've been around a ton of NHLers before this, so it wasn't like a big deal at the beginning. But when I first was in like a media scrum with Patrick Kane, I was like, "Oh shit!" Like this is the guy.
Dude.
Like,
That'll
dude,
wake
Kane
you up.
was the guy. Like he was the guy growing up. So like that for me was like, I don't even think I asked anything. I was a little too nervous for that one, but
he was the guy, wasn't he, dude? Like how many
Yeah.
people shaved like those racing stripes in the side?
I
of
did.
Just Kane?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%, dude. I would love to
I'm
see
gonna
the
do it
numbers
again
on
this
that.
summer. I'm growing my hair out right now.
I love that. Hell yeah.
But
that
yeah,
had
like
been pretty cool.
there are still little moments like that, I think. Depending on who I'm talking to. It doesn't really happen with the Rangers because the only guy I like really grew up kind of watching was Kreider. But like I'm not, I don't think I had that feeling with him originally. Trying to think of like any road players that I've talked to that have given me that. I mean, like we'll get into it. Some of the skates that I've done, I've had that, but yeah, there hasn't really been, much like fanboying, I guess, as of late.
Okay. How's everybody else in the media like with you? Because like you're like the new up and comers. Everybody been like super supportive? Are there people where you're like, okay, I'm gonna let him ask a question before I do? Like, how does that all work?
Well, there's like a pecking order. And I've only I've only started a press conference once, and that was last week because I was with Vince, and Vince was like, I don't really have anything to ask today. He's like, can you take the reins? I was like, yeah, I guess I'll take it. Because also like it's tough when people like Vince, Molly, Colin, Larry, Arthur, when I'm not with them every day. Like, because I have other things around the league and stuff that I do, so I'm not like a full-time beat reporter for the Rangers. Whereas when they see them every day, you can't ask the same questions all the time. So like, if they need me to step in and say something, I will. But I'm not also one to like overstep those boundaries. Like, you kind of learn quickly that Vince will start it, or Larry will start it, or Arthur will start it, or sometimes Molly even starts it. And I am not one to do that. But we have like a little assigned seating now, like in the press conference room. Like, in the beginning of the season, it's different. You don't really know where you're going to sit yet. And as the season goes on, it's just like a classroom in high school. You kind of just sit in the same spot every time.
Right.
And then there's Matt Mugno, who, like younger people just go a little bit later in the press conference. But there's a lot of learning things too. Like, I think if you're in the locker room, you have to be respectful of other people's questions and, not tweet out what someone else might ask too. Like I've learned that, if you're in a public scrum, I think most things are up for grabs. But if it's like a, 1 or 2 person interview, you can't really take someone else's questions, not questions, but answers and stuff like that. There's just like little ins and outs to it that doesn't take a lot of learning, but a little time to adjust on what you can and what you can't do. Like, it's an interesting dynamic though, for sure.
Do you remember the first question you asked? Or who it was to? Or if you were really nervous to do it, all these things.
Yeah.
Like my first time, I'd be like, oh boy, let's not stutter, or like, let's not ask something dumb, or like, you know what I mean?
I think I don't remember the first. I think I went up to Fox first, just because I've known Adam since we're kids. So I like, when the first time I saw him in the locker room, like he was, like he actually like dap, like it was a dap, like it was like,
Yeah.
which was cool, but also like you have to be professional, right? So
Mhm.
it's, I felt obviously comfortable that he did that, but I think he was the first one I asked, and it might have just been like, playing the Devils in the first round. What does it mean for you as a kid who grew up a Ranger fan? Like, I think I asked him where he was when the Henry goal happened. I think that's
Okay.
what I asked. I think that was my first question.
It's like outside on the tennis courts with you, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then I remember, so I went out to the guys that I knew first when I started
Mhm.
because they played Buffalo that night. So I went to Tage Thompson after, spoke to him quickly, and I think I actually asked him about his thoughts on UConn winning the men's basketball championship. Like, something just kind of
Yeah.
a little different because he's a UConn guy. So something like that. But yeah, I felt nervous walking into the room, but going to the guys that I knew previously, I didn't really feel that nervous.
So one of the things I like about you, and like we'll get into the open skate later, but I feel like most of the time it's just the same questions kind of over and over and over again. Where when we have people we interview, like we'll do like a rapid fire question segment where we're like, okay, like if you could have your own concert, pick like 5 bands or artists that are alive that you'd want to play the concert. Because to me, that's telling me more about the person than just like, oh, hey, how did you get to where you're at? Because like, dude, pretty much
Mhm.
those stories are all the same. You just skate really hard. You train as you're just a
Yeah.
psycho. You know what I mean? But like, or who do you want to sit courtside? Because to me, it shows a little bit more about that person than just that stuff. So like I enjoy that stuff. When you do the open skates, like I always kind of find out like interesting little tidbits. It kind of like humanizes these like people that everybody looks up to so much. You know what I mean? So what
Yeah.
like is it hard to like try to include some of that stuff? Because hockey, I feel hockey media at least is so traditional in what you can and can't ask. Does that make sense?
Include that in like my coverage or include
Yeah, and
that
like
in
your coverage, like, is it
yeah.
like do the guys kind of almost appreciate that? Because I feel like you do. Because if you just hear the same questions over and over and over again, and then you kind of ask a little bit more about them, they're probably like, "Oh shit, yeah, dude, I'll answer these questions." You ever like find that happening?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain situations where you can and can't do that. Like
Mhm.
when I'm in the locker room, it's tougher to ask those questions because it's really focused on a game or focused on
Right.
a specific theme with the opponent and whatnot. Like you don't really want to shy away from the important thing
Mhm.
when you're covering the team in that scenario. Like the locker room is a way more serious environment, but the open skates, like those are obviously what I love
They're so
doing.
sick. Yeah.
It's just more fun for me. It's more fun for the player. Like they enjoy it. I enjoy it. It's where they're naturally comfortable on the ice. And again, like when I have a player one-on-one, it's different. I can ask more of those questions. Like,
Mhm.
I asked Quinn Hughes if he's going to post more on Instagram with the team winning more now, like stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like, and that's a one-on-one conversation. So I can ask that. But if I'm in a scrum, like, yeah, I like to keep it light for the most part, but I don't want to be that guy that's like a total goofball, like
Yeah, yeah.
I will have my times. Like I will have my moments where I ask something that's not so serious. Like I remember, I got a couple laughs when I asked Laviolette like if he has any Christmas Day traditions with his family. But
Right.
like, hey, like, it's a human being that celebrates Christmas just like all of us. Like,
100%.
well, not me, I'm Jewish, but I think just like to ask him that though, like it's a human emotion. And something I've learned a lot through my couple years here of just interviewing people too, and being interviewed. No one's going to tell you something that's so deep to them without you asking it, right?
Right.
Like you need to open them up. So that's something that I try to do for the most part. And again, like sometimes a shitty question can be made into a great question depending on how it's answered.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. There's always different approaches to it, but for the most part, I like to go in the positive lane as opposed to the negative lane.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I just think that's really cool.
Thank you.
And I know you started Morning Cup of Hockey. So like let's talk about that a little bit. How did that idea get started? How fired up are you about that?
Yeah, it's been awesome. And that idea came, honestly, I've been, since probably like 10 years, I've just been begging for an NHL morning show. Like not even
Seriously,
for me to
right?
do it. Like just to have something fresh in the morning to listen to. And granted, like I'm a huge podcast listener. But I grew up watching NHL Network and I watch it every night and then I watch the same thing every morning. So it
It's
was
the
kind of
same
like
thing, right, dude?
same thing.
Yeah, dude, just
But you
reruns.
can't blame the network. It's like, it's just what they do. Like,
Yeah.
you know, but I've also, like I said, I've been a huge NBA fan my whole life. So, in my later years, I was waking up listening to Get Up or First Take and
Yeah.
listening to James Harden trade rumors and listening to LeBron James and listening to, Joel Embiid and all these, NBA things and NFL
Right.
things. And I was like, they never cover hockey. So why can't there just be like a hockey centric show?
Yeah.
And, it's something that I've talked about for a couple of years now that I've been in the media. I've mentioned it to a couple of people. No one's really ever taken the bait. But Colby Cohen is a huge mentor of mine. I messaged him on LinkedIn when I was a senior in college blindly, just asked him for advice. He played college hockey, he played in the NHL, and he was doing media stuff. And I thought he was the perfect guy to kind of model my career after. And, since that message, we just become pretty good friends. And, I went to him with the idea, and he had been, working with the Daily Faceoff. And he was like, you know what? Daily Faceoff wants me to do a show with them. This is like the perfect idea. Like, why don't we just pitch it together? And I was like, I would love that. And, I think we pitched it originally like back in August. So it's been taking, a couple months to get going. Obviously a lot of work goes into it, but it's been an absolute blast so far. And it's a lot of work, like, waking up at 7 a.m. every day and prepping the show. Cause you can't really prep it at, midnight the night before because, you do need to sleep and whatnot. So we're waking up a little bit earlier and, kind of discussing everything we're going to talk about, but it's been a blast so far, and hopefully people are picking up on it and watching it.
No, it's awesome. I always was so jealous of Canada because I feel like Canadians probably have that.
So much coverage.
You know what I mean? Like they have that where they wake up in the morning, what was happening. Like in the States, it's primarily NBA, NFL, MLB. Like those are like the big three that are kind of going on, and then hockey every once in a while. And I remember everybody's so fired up about like ESPN getting involved. And I think that they're doing what they can with what they have, but it is nice to have that morning show now. Like it is nice to like kind of wake up and be like, like what happened last night? Like what's going on? So as a hockey fan, thank you. Cause we needed this for like a long time, and now it's finally being done. But let's talk rags, dude. Yeah, I said it. We had some recent news. Bro. Yeah. So Brendan Othman was sent down after a 2-game stint. What'd you think, dude? About I mean, he has so much hype as this kid. What I like about him is not only he has obvious skill, but he also is not afraid to like kind of get in the hard areas and piss people off, and that's my kind of player. He had a couple cool little like between the legs passes. His first game, I think his ice time kind of went down towards the second game. But from what you saw, what impressed you? What do you think he kind of needs to work on? Stuff like that.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that between the legs pass because my dad said the same thing after his first game. He was like, "Oh, he looks comfortable. Like he made that play, and you can just tell he's comfortable."
First game of the show, you're passing the puck between your legs. Like what?
Yeah. No, it was a great play too. Bradzinski had a good chance there. I thought his first game he was awesome. Second game quieted a little bit, and then the third game obviously doesn't see as much ice time. Gets benched in the second period. I think he only had like 2 shifts in the second period. But again, like I think he knew, and I think the organization knows that the way they're treating him this year is to marinate in the AHL. Get his experience, and then hopefully become a comfortable NHL player next year, maybe even the year after. Who knows? I'm sure it's going to be next year. That's probably the plan. But also, Brendan Othman isn't, this franchise savior. It's not like there's a lot of pressure on him to come up and, score 30 goals in his first year. Like that's not what they're asking of him. So they don't want to put that pressure on him. And I think the way they're doing it is fine. Like, is Othman going to come up here and join this playoff or join a playoff push and be the guy that gets them over the hump? Like, yeah, I'm not saying he can't be, but I don't think they want to make him out to be that guy. Right. So I think it's important for him to go and get more confidence in the AHL. Like he's had a, pretty good rookie year in the AHL, but is he lighting it up by any means? No. I think he had 9 goals right in his AHL so far. 23 points, I think too, if I'm not mistaken. But, I think good for him to get the experience. Thought he had a good showing. Did he go above and beyond? No. But was he noticeable and effective? Yes. And I think that's something he can build off of the next time he gets called up. So, hopefully he takes this as a learning experience and doesn't hang his head and, now goes down to the AHL and tears it up.
Yeah. And as Rangers fans, like they don't ever temper their expectations. It's always, we want it now. But I feel like your Rangers forwards, the only 2 that kind of strike me that were young, that just kind of tore it up immediately. Remember when Duclair first came on, it was like, holy shit, this kid's flying. He can score goals. And then Kreider, those would be like the only 2 forwards that I can remember, like kind of coming in and being like, okay, like, here's an impact. Obviously took Lafreniere a little bit, took Capo a little bit. So like with Othman, you kind of have to temper those expectations and be like, okay, well, let's see what type of stuff he can add. And then hopefully in the future, he does kind of add those things. But between the legs, your first game, that's confidence, right? Like that's being like, okay, I'm here to, he didn't look like he didn't fit in, which is probably,
he was
what I mean?
Right off the bat. Yeah. He belongs for sure. He does.
Yeah. So hopefully with a little bit of tuning up down in the AHL. He'll end up, making his presence known in the near future. But with Capo Kakos, he's skating again. I saw that he had a regular practice jersey on today, so that's pretty solid. His, the start of the year, we're going to kind of get into player grades in a little bit, but I see a lot of stats when Capo in the lineup versus Capo out of the lineup. When he gets back, I mean, this is only going to help the boys, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Capo Caco, everyone knows it wasn't a secret. He was struggling offensively before his injury. I don't think anyone wishes an injury upon anyone, but maybe this could be a fresh start for him coming back. I know things were starting to weigh on him a little bit, toward the middle of November whenever his injury happened. And, now he has time on his own. He's getting better. He's skating well. He looks good. He looks comfortable on the ice again. Like you just said, he's in the mix in practice today, and hopefully, by next week he's back in full-time action. And it's a fresh start for Capo Caco, and the team is also not playing that well right now. So It's kind of a good time for him to come back. Like, had he come back and the team's on a 10-game winning streak and he comes back and doesn't fit in and they lose, then it's like, oh, well, it's because of Caco, but like if he comes in now and just makes a positive impact. Yeah, if he comes back now and makes a positive impact on the group, like I think it's only a positive to have him back, right? Like I don't think the team can play that much worse with him in the lineup as they did against Vancouver. And not that they played so bad against Vancouver, but, a lot of the mistakes were, like Pierre Laviolette said, they were loud mistakes. And when you play a skilled team like Vancouver, they're going to make you look foolish. So for Caco now, I think it's a good time to get back in and a good mental reset.
I'm just looking for him to start playing with some confidence. I feel like he gets some confidence to his game because he's a bull in the corners. If he gets some confidence and he gets pucks and he goes to the net, like if he starts doing those things, if he starts playing with that little bit of swagger, man, I feel like the sky's the limit for this kid because he obviously can defend. He's a very good defensive forward. It's just that he hasn't really been able to put it together offensively, and it's just you're just waiting for him to do it,
Well, it's crazy too because him and Lafreniere had the complete opposite preseason. Like Capo Caco was insanely confident in the preseason games that we saw, and Lafreniere was pretty much irrelevant in the preseason. And the regular season starts, Lafreniere scores the first goal of the year, and since that moment, his confidence has just skyrocketed, and Caco's has dwindled. So, like, it's a very bizarre thing in hockey with confidence. I mean, we've seen a ton of star players when they struggle. It's just like.
Look at Huberto. Huberto can't do anything.
Yeah. Right yeah. I mean, dude, it's a human emotion, right? When things are bad, you think they're never going to get good again. And when things are good, you think they're never going to get bad. So it's just a tough thing that you have to balance as a human being and as a hockey player. And hopefully Caco can figure that
out. What's the word around the team with Filipino right now? I know he returned home to Czechia and like he's had however many concussions in his young NHL career. Should this be like a worrisome thing that he's returning home? Are they kind of letting him, hey, go do your own thing, don't worry about it, get better when you can? Like what's the talk around the Rangers right now?
Well, that's the thing. The Rangers don't really talk, so we don't really know more in the situation than anyone else in the public does. As far as him returning home again, hate to use the word again, but it's another reset.
Yeah.
He wasn't getting better here, so let him go home and be the trainer that he works with in the summers.
More comfortable, right? Around your family,
comfortable again. It's a tough thing to be injured, not only, miss out on games and whatnot, but being injured and missing time with your family and, kind of just feeling all alone. So I think maybe it's good for his mental as well, where, he can feel that love and support from his family and friends back home and, hopefully get to a point where he's comfortable enough to come back and play. But I would not think that they're going to rush him before the playoffs.
Yeah, that's another really good point, dude. Like if you're not at the rink every day skating with the boys or whatever, and you are in a different country so far away from home, that's got to get so lonely, dude, and like taxing just like mentally. And on top of that, with did they announce it's a concussion yet? It's kind of a suspected thing, right? Like they haven't really kind of put a
I think it was just
but there's just a lot going on. So hopefully, that kind of resets him, and then obviously he's looked really, really good like the last couple of years. It's almost like take that next step. And you thought that Phil was going to be the number 2 center this year, and we're going to get into player grades. Vinny Trocheck's really stepped up, but let's just kind of get into the forwards now. We'll kind of get into the Ranger season. I'll try to break it down line by line. There's been a lot of juggling, so I have like the first 2 here, but we'll start with the first line. For the majority of the season, it's been Zibanejad, Kreider, and Wheeler. Zibanejad, 39 games played, 14 goals, 25 assists. Kreider, 39 games played, 20 goals, hit the 20-goal mark again, 15 assists. And then Wheeler, 5 goals, 10 assists. With this first line, I know Cooley's up now, but how are you looking at these guys? I know Zibanejad kind of, he was really, really cold, then he kind of got hot again. Kreider, special teams. I mean, that guy in front of the net of the power play is insane. And then Blake Wheeler seemed to have lost a little bit of a step this year, but I mean, you can never really question his effort level. At least that's kind of what I've been seeing. Like every game, he's at least put it out there. I don't think he really knew he was fighting Tenorti the other night. That might not be the guy you want to drop the gloves with.
Yeah.
What do we have with these three?
Well, I think everyone that's watched the Rangers this year knows that they need more 5-on-5 out of Zibanejad and Kreider, no matter who the third player is on their line.
Yeah.
And Blake Wheeler, listen, he's shown positive spurts when playing with them. I think his production hasn't been as bad lately as everyone seems to make it out to be. He's kind of become the scapegoat and the punching bag on this team this year for, obvious reasons. I think just because, I mean, honestly, it shouldn't be obvious reasons. They signed him to an $800K.
That's what I'm saying, dude. It's not like he's making $5 million a year.
I mean, again, though, it is a guy who put up back-to-back 90-point seasons and is an NHL veteran and has shown he can score and produce. But like the Rangers knew what they were getting when they signed him. Like there were a lot of people who saying that, he has lost a step and couldn't play anymore and shouldn't be signed by the Rangers. And there were other people that said he still has a lot to prove, but he still also can play the game at a very high level. And, I think, like I just said, he's become somewhat of a punching bag for, I don't want to say poor reasons, but, maybe just misjudged. Like he shouldn't be treated as Blake Wheeler from 5 years ago. He should be treated as Blake Wheeler that's making $800K. And I think fans have kind of lost sight of that a little bit because he's playing on the first line and wasn't doing well in the third line. He's not a third line player, so why would he? Yeah. But that's just how it is. And as far as Zibanejad and Kreider go, I see every game after they lose, we got to separate 93 and 20. And then every game after they win, oh, I love these two together.
Right.
It's just a love-hate relationship, just like how New York sports fans are. And it's never going to change. But again, Mika and Kreider continue to produce in the power play. Could they have more production in 5-on-5? Yes. Have they been abysmal and bad? Not at all. Well, also, like, I think I missed it, but I saw a lot of discourse the other day about like Kreider's assists or something. I don't know where that started, but I saw a lot of comments of like, what about the assists? I don't know if you know the backstory on that.
I don't know. I think it was just somebody wanted to see. I saw that Kreider doesn't make other players around him better. I think, at least in my opinion, there's some wingers that can do it, Panarin, Kane, but for the most part, like your centerman kind of really carries play. I don't know if you agree or disagree, but like you look at all the good teams like a Crosby, a Malkin, like Taves when he was good, like those guys is Zibanejad. Like those are the guys, they have the puck the most. Those are the guys who are going to be in the D zone supporting the defenseman, getting the puck up the ice or whatever. You don't really see, every once in a while you see like a unicorn like Johnny Gaudreau or a Panarin where the play kind of runs through them. But to me, it's not really Kreider's like role to be out there dishing pucks. It's Kreider's role to drive the net, get his stick on pucks, get pucks deep, be physical presence. So I didn't really understand why that was like an issue.
Yeah, I didn't either. I just saw the comments of like, what about his assists and whatever, and I didn't understand it. But I think those three. Do I have to give a grade?
Yeah. We'll do Zibanejad, Kreider, and Wheeler. What do we got? Well, let's do individual. So Zibanejad so far this year. What are you giving him?
Mika, I'm probably gonna give a B-. Just because his start to the year was, not very strong, I'd say production wise. But I don't think he's been poor. But I think people would expect the A, right? So, I think as of late, he's certainly met expectations, but you got to take the whole year into account, right? So, I'd say,
and it's so easy to be so hard on these players that are supposed to perform. You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, this person's supposed to. It's not like they're not trying. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like they're not caring about going to the rink. So I would agree with the B-.
A grade, but like if you're giving a grade to just like a typical player, like if I'm giving Mika Zibanejad a grade on like where he is right now, it'd probably be an A.
Yeah, he's point per game player. It's point per game player, number one center.
If you're taking the whole season into effect, like
right,
it's you got to think at the beginning.
No, I would completely agree with that. I would give him a B-. I want out of Zibanejad, and here's another thing, like everybody is so quick to jump and look at stats when they're kind of evaluating a player's performance, which is obviously like a good indicator, but there's other different things. We talked about Blake Wheeler. He only has 15 points, but something Drury wanted to add this offseason was like more veteran leadership. You added a Wheeler, you added a Bonino. Nobody knows what those guys bring to the locker room other than the guys in the locker room and like you guys. Like as a typical Rangers fan, you're not really surrounded by stuff like that. There's no stat that's going to say, okay, Wheeler makes the younger dudes on the team more comfortable, or like Wheeler teaches the younger kids on the team about nutrition or about being a pro or whatever it might be. So that doesn't really show up. So like these like fans just kind of look at stats and like, oh, only 15 points. Like what the hell is going on? And the same thing kind of goes with Zibanejad. Like he might not have been, putting up points every single night. I mean, he's still a point per game, but it's got to be hard to play against a dude who's 6'3", 220 pounds, who's buzzing all over the ice every single night. Like there's no stat that kind of puts, that into correlation with what it should be. So B-, I would agree. What do you have for Kreider?
Kreider, I give a better score too, because he's been really good, I think, since the start.
Yep.
So I give Kreider like that B plus A range. He's asked to score goals. He still could be a little bit more physical, but I think Kreider has done exactly what's expected of him so far this year.
I would agree. And then with Wheeler,
again, this is a difficult one because if you're asking me to grade the 800K Blake Wheeler, like I'd give him a B plus.
Yeah.
If you're asking me to grade the Blake Wheeler that I've watched play for a decade, it's like a C minus.
Right.
That's just how it is. But that's I guess how I'll grade it.
Yeah, I think you have to take into age, the contract, whatever it is. I'd probably give him a C plus, dude. I don't think he's been that bad. And again, I don't really know what's kind of going on in the locker room. He probably brings a lot more intangibles than just like the stats that are kind of showing up there. The thing about Blake Wheeler, another thing that people don't realize, you can plug him in anywhere in the lineup. Like you don't need to kind of just put him in one place. If you tell Blake Wheeler, hey, listen, dude, we need to put you on the fourth line tonight, but I need you out there banging bodies and blocking shots. That's exactly what that guy's going to go do. Like you don't have to really worry about that with him. So I would also agree. The Rangers' second line, which kind of drives me nuts because in my opinion, it's their first line. You have Panarin, Trocheck, and Lafreniere. Panarin, 39 games played, 26 goals, 31 assists for 57 points. It took him 78 games to score 26 goals last season. So he's already there, which is you love to see. He definitely seems like he's shooting the puck a little bit more. Shave the head. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but what do you have out of the bread man? I mean, he's so much fun to watch, dude. It's insane.
I mean, I hate to just like skip over, but like these guys are all A plus. I mean,
dude, they've all been unbelievable. Like, you look at, there's not one bad thing to say about it. Panarin had a bad playoff, whatever, shaves his head, comes back, dominates, right? Lafreniere, kind of a slow start to his career. 39 games played, 10 goals, 15 assists, 25 points. He should have way more points, dude. It seems like he wants the puck now. For the first time in his career, I feel like normally he'd get the puck kind of chipping in, do whatever he wants, but now he gets the puck. He takes a couple extra seconds. He's skating out. He's skating up. He made a great play. Who scored the other night? Where he kind of drove wide, pulled up, little Gretzky curled the blue line dish to Panarin. Yeah, Panarin. Like you didn't see that in years past. Years past, it was kind of like he just wasn't as confident as he is now. And you can see that in his game. It's fucking awesome to see, dude.
Yeah, and I know it says here he's -5, but like to me, he hasn't been like a defensive liability at all. If anything, he's actually been a one-man breakout a couple of times this year too.
And he doesn't shy away from physicality either, dude. Like if somebody hits his teammate, he's one of the first, and he's always kind of been like that. Who did Pajot hit somebody like a couple years ago? And Lafreniere went over and fought him, and I think it was his rookie year, and it was like, holy shit, okay, this kid gets it. Like
I think he might have hit Fox actually. It was in Long Island, right? Or on Long Island?
Yeah.
I think I know
and
that.
you'd love seeing that. It's like, okay, like, and it happened not that long ago where he kind of went after somebody.
He fought Stammer in the conference final. Remember that?
Yeah, he's got like an edge to his game. Like he's kind of like an old school type hockey player, which you don't really see that now with all like the Michigan goals and like all these like little like cool deeks. Like he still has that like grit and grind to his game.
Yeah, I fully agree. And I think last year it was just a matter of keeping him engaged every night. But Laviolette has done that, and he has
100%, dude. 100%.
I thought he was the best player for the Rangers in that Canucks game the other night.
Yeah, easily. And you could tell because like it seemed like he was on the ice, it seemed like a lot. Yeah. And then Vinny Trocheck, dude, 39 games played, 12 goals, 29 assists, 40 points. Here's a list of this. This is from Rangers Muse. Every player in Rangers history to have a single season face-off win percentage above 60% with a minimum of 700 players. It's only one player, and it's Vinny Trocheck this season. He currently holds the 14th best face-off percentage in a season in NHL history and minimum 700 face-offs, which if you're a Rangers fan, you know they are historically terrible at the dot. So it's this is so big because faceoffs possession. Like if you think about it, all those great Rangers teams that couldn't win a draw to save their life, they were battling to get the puck back almost immediately every single time the puck was dropped. So like little things like this is huge. And Vinny Trocheck, every game, he's out there, he's banging, he's going into the dirty areas, but he still has like these cool little moments of like skill where you're like, holy shit, dude. Like he has been everything that I think the Rangers have wanted, especially with Phil going down. Beginning of the season, everybody thought Trocheck was going to be your third line center. And now look, I mean, if Phil comes back, you can't separate these two. You can't, or this line. You can't do it.
No, definitely not. And don't get me wrong. I was all for Trocheck being third line center. I thought he just made the team a little bit deeper in that spot. But, he has earned this right to be that second line center. I mean, he's playing incredible with those two guys. But also, like, don't forget, Vinny Trocheck played in that Team North America team back in the World Cup a couple years ago. Like, he was known to be the younger, skilled guy in the NHL, like, early on in his career. And not saying he's not that anymore, but, he's become this 200-foot player that's responsible defensively and can, grind, grit, PK, do everything, all the little things you want. And I think Trocheck's kind of become one of those guys that I think every team would want and every team hates playing against. Yeah. And he's also another guy who's very vocal in the room, a great leader, well-liked guy. Trocheck just does everything the right way for the most part, it seems. And like he has become, a solidified second line center on this team.
Yeah, and he's taking in Will Cooley, which is like kind of cool to see. We'll
also, it's tough. I didn't cut you off, but I was say like it was very tough for him. I mean, I know Rangers had a love-hate relationship with Ryan Strome, but like there were a lot of people when Trocheck signed that deal that were like, this is the guy we're signing. Like it's basically the same thing as Strome. Why couldn't we just pay him that money? And I think Trocheck has shown what added value he brings that Strome just didn't. And I love Ryan Strome. Don't get me wrong, but I do think it's become obvious.
Strome was a great Ranger, dude. I loved Ryan Strome too, but I agree with you.
It's obvious that Trocheck's the better player.
Yeah, 100%. I could not agree more. And it kind of took. Do you remember last year when they kind of put those two together? It took them a while to kind of figure out what was going on between Panarin and Trocheck, and then you're kind of mixing and matching. But this year something's clicked, and it's every time they're on the ice, it's a threat. It's awesome to watch. I said that he brought in Cooley. We'll talk about Will Cooley. 39 games played, 7 goals, 4 assists, 11 points. He leads. I don't know how many hits he has, but I know that he leads rookies in hits. He's a bowling ball out there, dude. And he's got wheels for a bigger dude, too. You wouldn't really – every once in a while, get the puck and go scan down the ice. You're like, who the hell is that? And it's like, holy shit, it's Cooley. So as a rookie season, how do you think he's played so far?
He's an A for me.
Yeah.
Easy. And I think the Rangers, everyone asks – should they target at the deadline? What kind of player should they bring in? For me, it's bringing another guy like Will Cooley.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a guy that can do everything that you ask him for. He seems to be an easily coachable player. Again, he's young, so he still is, I think Vince actually had a pretty good interview with him the other day where he talked about, instead of playing to make mistakes, he's playing a confident game now.
Yep.
Where I think, obviously like most rookies would, they, their first 20 to 40 games, they're in the lineup and they're just like trying to belong. And now that he does belong, he wants to be impactful. But to me, Cooley has been a huge blessing to this team that lacked the intensity that he brings the last couple of years. So I like Will Cooley. I think he's going to thrive on this first line with Zibanejad and with Kreider, depending on how many games or looks he gets. But for me, Will Cooley's an A for sure.
What I've liked about Cooley too, there's been a few times where he's kind of coming down on the wing, and I feel like a majority of the time Rangers players, they kind of get to the half wall, pull up, wait for everybody else to come back, or they'll chip the puck in the corner, whatever it might be. Cooley has he'll get to the top of the circle and kind of cut in and get like a really good shot off. And you're like, holy shit, dude, like that was cool. And the fact that I'm saying that's cool is a problem. Like I feel like maybe you should probably do that a little bit more. But you're right, on a first line, he kind of brings everything that you need him to bring, right? And the one thing that I love about him is he does not finish every single one of his checks. Like if he has an opportunity to kind of be physical with a defenseman, he's going to do it. And you see it every single time when he's on the ice, defenseman move the puck up. You're supposed to be watching the puck as a fan, but I'm watching Cooley go in and bury this dude in the corner like every single time. So awesome, especially as a rookie. You love to see it. Jimmy Vesey, 37 games played, 8 goals, 5 assists, 13 points. Just that tried and true guy. You know what you're going to get from him every single night. He get penalty kill. He chips in offensively occasionally every once in a while. He's really kind of found his role, I would say.
I think he's an A again as well.
Yep.
And granted, I am not the harshest critic, so I know the grades I'm giving out, but I mean, Jimmy Vesey he's a fourth line guy that's got 8 goals this year, What more can you really ask for? He does kill penalties. He does all the little things that you need. Do I wish maybe he was a better skater? Maybe, sure. If I'm trying to critique something, but yeah, for me, Jimmy Vesey has been, he's done his job.
Yeah, and I remember at the beginning of the year, him and Pitlick were kind of, what one are you going to put in the lineup? But you're not taking
You're
Jimmy Vesey out
trashed
of
the
the
first
lineup
game.
now. Yeah,
Yeah, you're trashed.
Johnny Brodzinski finally got a shot, and he seems like he's sticking around. 20 games played, 1 goal, 7 assists. He buzzes, man. That guy's up and down the ice always. Another player when he has the puck on his stick, the puck's going to the net, which is again something the Rangers I think have lacked historically ever since I've really been a Rangers fan. It's nice to see a guy who's kind of been an AHL dude really get a shot to stick in. And I know he was interviewed and he talked about how much he appreciated Laviolette kind of giving him a shot. And what I thought was cool is when he came up, they gave him an opportunity to really play, some minutes. And Laviolette said, hey, like when these guys come up, I want to put them in the best position to succeed. And that's something that, he gets down the AHL. Let's give him a shot. So what do you think about Broads?
Tough to grade him. Because he's bounced around a lot, right? In the lineup. Like, he got some power play time, he's got some first line time, he's got some fourth line time, he's got some third line time. So I don't know what a fair grade for Broads would be, but as far as talking to any of the guys in the team, he is my favorite.
Yeah.
He is just a very down to earth human being, and is so appreciative of this opportunity. He's a guy who had a successful college career. Played in LA for a bit, was never really a consistent guy, has jumped up and down. He's faced a ton of adversity, and is just a true all-around teammate. You can sense it. Everyone in the room seems to love him, and he's nothing but respectful. And I think it's I like the grade I'm thinking of, I guess, is a B plus. Just because would you have liked to see him stick more in the top 6? Yes, because he was a scorer in the AHL. He led the league in scoring when he was called up. But you're asking a AHL player to produce first line in the NHL. It's a big ask. So
yeah,
I don't want to grade too harshly, but I think just based on the guy he is and what he brings to the room, and I guess all of that, I give him a good grade.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. We got 2 other forwards, and these are going to be interesting ones. Nick Bonino, 38 games played, 1 goal, 4 assists for 5 points. 5 points, 38 games, whatever it might be. The one thing I will say about Bonino is the whole Rangers faceoff started doing better, and it seemed like when this guy kind of got to the team. And I know that he does the thing where, when you normally take a face off, your hands are normally positioned a certain way. He ends up flipping one of his hands over on, I think, his offside face off. Does that make sense?
Yep.
But I mean, you even look, Zibanejad's having one of a career year at the dot too, and I think a lot of this happens because of Bonino. I don't think Bonino was really added to really, provide offense. Like, he was kind of supposed to be, again, a veteran dude around the boys, and also not to be a defensive liability. So when you kind of look at him not being a defensive liability, him being around the boys, and him kind of, bringing in this fresh new face-off kind of thing, whatever, impact he has on the centers, I think he's been pretty good. But if you ask a lot of Rangers fans, they would not say that. So what do you think about Bonino?
He also blocks a shit ton of shots.
Oh, yeah, dude, so many shots. Yeah.
Like, that
Good
guy
ball.
is fearless. He's fearless. And I have a lot of respect for Nick Bonino. He's a very smart hockey player. Again, a guy who was brought in to play fourth line minutes that has been the third line center now for a lot of games just because of circumstances. And again, it's tough to grade him because he's being asked to do more than he was brought in for.
Right.
So this grading is tough because of just how everything is shaken up for the Rangers this year. Like, again, a guy
That's such a good point. He was supposed to be here for fourth line minutes, but since was it November 2nd? Is that when got hurt?
Exactly. November 2nd. Yeah. So it's very tough. And a guy, like, I don't know if we're doing defense too, but a guy who gets a better grade because of injury is Eric Gustafsson, who stepped up when Fox got hurt. But like, that's not what he was asked to do when he was brought here.
Right.
So like, he's a guy who went above and beyond. But like, if you're gonna say Nick Bonino is like a lower grade than like a C plus because he isn't a third line center, like, it's an unfair grade to give. So I don't know. I think he hasn't gone, or he hasn't exceeded expectation. I think he's done exactly what I've expected of him to do. And I think he is well respected in that locker room. So like, again, I'd give like a I'm not going to sit here and give anyone a failing
No,
grade.
I
Like,
gotcha. Yeah.
yeah, like everyone has done their job. This team's won hockey games. Sure, they've had a rough stretch here as of late, but like, yeah, and maybe they have, a couple games here and there where they don't look like they're up to par. But listen, like this is a team that's sitting in a good spot right now that has faced a ton of adversity, and
Right.
they have this no excuses motto about them this year, and they haven't used any excuses. So, I'm sure other fans would be a little bit harsher, but I'm saying Nick Bonino is like a B.
Yeah. No, I would agree. I like that you said the no excuse thing because I was so sick and tired of Derek Stepan saying, "Oh, hey, I thought we did a lot of good things," or like
Yeah,
anybody on that team. You remember when they weren't that good and it was always like, "Well, I thought we did a lot," and this team isn't
dude.
like that. They're very accountable, which is like
Honestly,
nice to see.
like I asked Laviolette a question. I think it was maybe after the Nashville game when they lost 4-1 at home, and I was like, "Are there any positives to take away?" He was like, "I never find positives in a win," and I think that is a culture shift because last 2 years, Dragoland had a ton of moral victories
Mhm.
and losses, and I know now, Rangers lose, I ain't asking Laviolette any positive questions.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
That's I love that though. Like it's
yeah,
accountability. Like get
yeah,
out there and do your job.
mhm,
Barkley Gaudreau, dude, 37 games played, 1 goals, 3 assists, 4 points. Now I know he gets a ton of hate, but if you look back, he had a piece of his jaw laying on the ice. And
yeah.
now he's wearing a bubble. Like, dude, no excuses, whatever it might be. Hockey's a very physical sport. If you have a piece of your jaw laying on the ice and you still have to wear a bubble, I don't know what his eating's like right now. I don't know if he has to eat through a straw.
He
I
was
don't
liquid diet for a month.
that's like you have to take these things into consideration, right? Like, and it's people are so easy to point fingers and be like, well, he's been awful. How about you how about you drink through a straw for a month and tell me how you're performing the last however long?
Well, this one's tougher, and this is probably the toughest just because the money,
Yeah,
you
the
know,
money's tough.
like that is, it's, you know, it's tough.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's the guy you can be hard on just because of the money, and
Mhm.
I don't want to say it's unfair. Like, the guy, you're making money, it's not
No,
unfair, but I don't have like a good grade, I guess, but Barclay Goodrow, I mean, he's been, whatever.
I'm using the bubble as an excuse. If the bubble was not on there, I think I'd be a far. I also hate being really hard on people. Unless you're
Yeah.
Mark Stahl, I love being hard on Mark Stahl. But anybody else, dude, like with Bar, it's one of those things. Like he's brought in, he has that Stanley Cup pedigree. He
If
sticks
he's
up for
making
his teammates.
800K, it's fine. It's because he's
Yeah,
making 3.5 mil. It's just,
yeah,
you know,
I would
you'd spend
agree.
that money elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, we can run through defense real quick. Fox, 29 games played, 4 goals, 21 assists, 25 points. My only question about Adam Fox for you is like, do you think he's been a different player since returning from injury? Like, do you think the injury it's taken him a bit more to catch up? Or I can't ever be hard on Adam Fox, dude. I'm so blessed that this dude's gonna be a Ranger for like the longest
Yeah.
time. It's so much fun to watch him play hockey. He just sees the game different.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely battling injury still. Like, it's not an easy injury to come back from, and it's the
Right.
first time in his life that he's had a long-term injury. So, obviously there's going to be a little bit of a cushion there. And, again, he's still producing points. He's not the Adam Fox that we've been used to seeing the last couple of years. Like, you can tell, right? Like, he's usually more mobile on the blue line, offensively, getting in the mix more. He hasn't really been, as creative in the offensive zone as we've seen in the past prior to the injury. But I still think as time goes on here, he'll get more and more comfortable getting back to his old self. Just the last like 6 weeks or however long it's been since he's returned, you can sense he's not his full self.
Right.
Don't want to say he's like avoiding injury either because he's not, but um,
Takes a while to kind of get back to
yeah,
100% after something
yeah,
like that.
for sure.
Ryan Lindgren, 38 games played, 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points. I have a question about Ryan Lindgren.
Hit
If
me.
you had to if you had to choose between like a Capo Caco type player, keeping him on the team or keeping a Ryan Lindgren on the team, who are you gonna end up taking on your team?
Probably Ryan Lindgren.
I think so too. And
Yeah.
I think at the beginning of the year, everybody was talking about Lafreniere, Capo, and I had like a really hot take because Lafreniere hadn't performed yet. I was like, dude, I would take Lindgren on the team over either of those guys. I don't think again,
I think
2
at the
goals, 4
time most
assists.
people would agree with you.
Yeah, 2 goals, 4 assists. He's not an offensive guy. But he is a weapon in your D zone. Like he battles, he blocks shots. I wish I knew the record with him in the lineup versus out of the lineup, but it seems like every time he's out of the lineup, the Rangers forget how to play defense. Like I don't think
Mhm.
people understand the importance of this dude on the Rangers, and he's coming up. I think he's a UFA this year. pretty sure, either this year or
I
next year, and
think
they
so.
don't have a
I
lot
think
of
you're
money.
yeah.
So I don't know what they're gonna end up doing with him. But what do you have on Lindgren? Also, he definitely leads the league in most times, getting cut. For sure.
For sure. Yeah, like a B plus. I think
Okay.
defensively, just everyone, I think honestly, like everyone beside Truba has been. I think Truba's been far and away the best defenseman this year. Like as far as just
Why do you
defending
think that?
goes.
Why do you think that is? I saw somebody talk about, like, now he's not on the power play. He can kind of like really adjust more to a defensive. Do you think that's what it is, or like, do you think it's he's handled this captaincy with such like grace? Like he really is like the heartbeat of the Rangers. When the Rangers need something done, and you're on the ice and Nate's on the ice, keep your head up because he's gonna run you over. He's gonna get the boys going. He's been awesome, I think.
Yeah, and he's not like cheating the game. Like I think last year or maybe 2 years ago, he was just trying to chip in more offensively and felt more
Mhm.
pressure to do so. You don't really see him pinching in so much and then having it like think about last year, how many times he kind of left Keandre out to dry in like a 2-on-1.
Right.
And this year it's actually been like the opposite, I think. I think Keandre has somewhat, tried to create offense and it's left Drew out to dry sometimes. So
Yeah.
I think Truba's just really become more of a defensive, like stay-at-home guy, and it's really benefited his game. And I think he was a guy before this year where people talked about the money and if he was worth it, and I think he's been worth every single penny of that $8 million contract this season.
100%. I could not agree more. With Keandre, how do you still give him a B? You still feel he's B worthy? Because to me, I think I'm a little bit more harder on Keandre Miller just because I
Yeah,
see the skills, the intangibles, like how he can be a one-man breakout, dude. He gets the puck, he just hit that long stride, like, and the long stick too. Good luck trying to take the puck from him. It just seems like I'm waiting so hard for this dude to take one step where you're going to become either this offensive kind of defenseman or this one step where, like, if he's on the ice, you're not getting scored on. And I'm waiting to see what way he's going to go. If it ends up happening. I mean, I can't be too hard on him. He's got 16 points and he's still a really good player, but there's just so much potential there. And I'm just kind of, I want it to happen now.
he's just got to get a little bit more physical. That's his thing. Like
I
he's
would agree with that too.
such a big body. Like I think sometimes he's just guilty of being too soft in the D zone. Like he should be getting bumps more. Like that's something the Rangers lack a little bit. Like they're not, like when do you see a Ranger defenseman, like aside from Trouba and Lindgren, truly battling at the net front, trying
No,
to
you're
like
right.
knock somebody out?
The only
Like
I can think Fox, when Fox gets pissed off, he's kind of ratty in front of the net.
rarely
Like,
happens.
I know, but when it does, it's like, holy shit,
Yeah.
he's pissed.
But like you'd think a guy with Keandre's size there wouldn't be anyone in front of the net, right?
Yeah.
Like I think
I
he's
would
just
agree.
got to
Good
get a little
point.
bit harder in front. But he has chipped in a lot offensively. He's made a lot of good reads, and even he has said publicly like he doesn't think he's playing his best hockey yet, which is good and bad because the
Yeah.
Rangers are winning games, and if he's not playing his best and they're still winning, like just wait until he's at his best. So, I think he's been a tough critic on himself as well, and I think he still has a lot of potential and a lot of room for improvement this year.
You mentioned Gustafsson earlier. He's got 20 points in 39 games played. This is probably one of the better six defensemen the Rangers have had in recent memory, right?
Yeah, I mean, like if you swapped Gaudreau and Gustafsson's price tag, I think it'd be a totally different story.
That's a good point too. Yeah.
Like I don't think anyone would be questioning anything if Gus was making 3.5 and Gaudreau was making what 9.25. Is that what Gus
Yeah.
is making?
Super cheap.
Yeah. So but like those opportunities come and go when there's injuries. Like if Fox doesn't get hurt, like doesn't happen probably, right?
Mhm.
So and honestly, like going back, if Tony DeAngelo doesn't do what he does and get kicked off the team or whatever, like Adam Fox, who knows what he becomes? Like
Yeah.
it's all about timing. So yeah, Gus I think gets like that A because he stepped up in a huge time of need.
Why do you think Rangers fans are so hard on Braden Schneider? I've been seeing this on Twitter a lot, and I don't really
Have
get it.
you? I feel like they love him.
No, I've been seeing everybody kind of wants him out the door.
Really?
Yeah, dude. Maybe it's just people are retweeting that I follow. It blows my mind. I love this kid. Like he's tough as shit. He's a mini Trouba. Like I don't really have any. He battles his efforts there.
For him, I think it's just the puck decisions and puck management.
Yeah.
Sometimes he just coughs it up. I think he's got to work on his hands a little bit more.
Mhm.
I think as far as breaking out the puck goes, if you were to ask me who I'm least confident in breaking out the puck, it's probably Braden. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to knock the guy down, but if I'm picking between those 6 or 7 guys, it's probably just him. But I think he's been solid. He's got to get better with puck management a little bit more. That's it.
Goalies, Shesterkin 16-9, 904-285. Jonathan Quick 9-2-2, 915 with a 2-4.
Well, you know the answer for Quick.
Yeah, I mean, is this? I can't believe it. Is this like a Benoit Allaire? I'm sure he probably has something to do with this, but I don't think anybody was expecting Jonathan Quick to come here and start posting these numbers.
When I first tweeted that Quick was going to come here, everyone was like, "Why the fuck would the Rangers get Jonathan Quick?" Like there was not like one positive comment. So good for him for shutting them up and getting Rangers fans or winning their hearts over. Excuse me. But yeah, I think Quick's been above and beyond. If anything, he could be the Stephen McDonald Extra Effort Award winner this year.
Oh, that's a good point, dude. I like that.
I think he'd be my pick right now. Obviously there are a ton of candidates. Like, you could say Panarin, you could say Trocheck, you could say Trouba, but I think with expectation wise, it's got to be Quick.
He's been lights out, and he's like, I love the way he plays goalie. There's not really that many goalies out there like that anymore. Like the smaller dudes who are kind of just flailing all over the place. The Dominic Hasek, the Tim Thomas, the Jonathan Quicks of the world. So it's nice to see that that's still kind of in the game. I feel like now all these goalies are like 6'3" and like robotic. Like they're gonna go this side. Quick, you never really know what's gonna happen, but he's gonna stop the puck. That one save he made where he kicked like his foot up and hit the back. It was crazy, dude. And then Shesterkin 16-9, 904, 2.85. I'm going to be hard on him. I'm going to give him like a C+, B-. I'm only going to say that because he's a reigning Vezina winning goalie, and you expect more out of that guy. I mean, his numbers are still there, and I'm only saying that because I know that he's going to come back and he's going to end up being an A by the end of the year. I mean, he's too good not to do that. But what do you have on Chesty?
I mean, I think you just said it pretty perfectly, but like, there was a lot of hate for him the other night against Vancouver, but like, I even put out a video of the Canucks' first 3 goals. Dude, like you have JT Miller alone in the slot.
Yep.
I think 7th overall goal scorer right now in the NHL. Like, not Igor's fault. You have a 2-on-1 backdoor to Nils Höglander, top shelf, perfect shot. And then Brock Besser, another top scorer in the NHL on a mini breakaway. Like, yeah, like maybe another goalie like Hellebuck comes up with one of those saves, but like, man, like they got to help him out.
Yeah,
like they're too loose in the D zone. But again, I'm guilty of this a lot, where I talk out of both sides of my mouth. As much as the expectations are high for Shesterkin to bail the team out, like they also have to be more of a help.
Yeah.
And I think Laviolette said it perfectly. Like, in that Vancouver game, the mistakes were too loud and it was too much for the goaltender to handle. And there will be games where that happens and Shesterkin makes those saves and bails them out and wins the game. But he hasn't really done it this year, and we've gotten used to seeing that. And I think we're very spoiled when it comes to goaltenders here. So that's the issue right now, is that like he's just not he's not lights out. So it's a negative, right?
We are so spoiled, dude. Like you look at teams like Toronto and Edmonton. When's the last time either of those two teams have had like a legitimate number one?
Toronto is now Martin Jones.
Yeah, right.
But
you know what I mean? Though, just like consistent number one. It's just, I don't know. He'll get there. I'm not too worried about that. Before we get into 3 stars, just really, really quick, MVP of the year so far.
Come on, obvious.
Yeah, fair enough.
Anyone but Panarin. It's gotta be Panarin, right?
It's got to be Panarin, and the only other person I would argue would be Trocheck, just because I think he's so important to this team, as is Panarin. But those, I would give those 2.
But if Panarin's not producing, we're not even talking about Trocheck.
That is very true. Okay, what is one thing that you think needs to be cleaned up the most with the Rangers play?
Too loose in the D zone. They need to be more physical. They need to be just angrier. They're not angry. I think you watch Florida play. They're fucking angry. They're pissed off. They play hard. They play heavy. The Rangers can find that and channel that. They'd be so much scarier. Like even, and I don't know if this is like a good example. I don't even know if I want to fucking say it, to be honest, but like Bedard lands on top of Shesterkin, and I know it's Connor Bedard. He's 18 years old. You don't want to, you don't want to be the jackass that punches Connor Bedard.
Yeah.
Right. But again, like someone touches your goalie, like show something.
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
I don't want to say, I'm not saying hit Bedard, but like there was nothing there.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, like you're good, buddy. Get up. I don't know.
That's such a good point. I never really thought of it that way. They really don't really play angry, do they? Like it's just kind of, they get the puck there,
Well, cool,
if you go to play the Rangers, I feel like you're kind of like, okay, like let's just try to limit their scoring chances. It's not like, oh, I have to play the Rangers. This is going to suck.
Yeah, they have
Like, I want to be
three
the team
guys
where
who play
you,
angry.
yeah. It
Three
would be
guys.
kind of
I
cool to
heard.
have a team that, like, whenever you go to the Garden, it's like, shit, now we got to play the Rangers. This is gonna
Yeah.
blow. Like, I'm gonna be hurt or so. You know what I mean? Like, we're gonna have bumps and bruises. Like, throwback to when like Callahan, Dubinsky, and those boys were around. But and then my only other question, if you're Chris Drury, what are you adding at the deadline, and who's a player that you'd want to bring in?
Frank Petrano.
Frankie
That's it.
V. Bring him back.
Frankie V.
He
I mean,
goes that there.
he's publicly said he loves it here. It's the best place to play hockey. He's succeeded here. He's the perfect guy. That's like, you know, I don't say I don't know, like I don't want to say Frank is such a skilled player, but he's a fast player and he's a goal scorer. And I think, you know, he makes this team faster. He makes this team more of a threat when it comes to goal scoring, and I think they could use that. I guess if Heedle's not coming back, you know, the third line center position needs to be filled for sure.
Mhm.
But you know, again, I think that first line right wing spot has to get figured out too. But for me, it's Frank Petrano. I think that's the guy. You?
It's tough, man. Frank Vetrano is really the only player that's been able to play consistently with.
Well, people are
Kreider,
saying
Zibanejad.
Zuccarello, Lindholm.
I mean, I would love Zuccarello, dude. Zuccarello is my favorite player of all time. So if that were to happen, I don't even know what I would do.
Mhm.
Defensively, for the first time in a while, I don't really think you really need to add anybody defensively. We didn't really mention Zach Jones, but he hasn't really, like, when he's in the lineup, he's not really a liability. So you have that extra defenseman there. I would be very worried going into a deep playoff run of having Nick Bonino as your third line center, though.
Yeah.
Like, it would be nice to add a little bit more there. If a perfect player, I'd love to bring in Dominic Moore, but you know, he's not around anymore. Like, that would be ideal. But Frank Vetrano, I mean, yeah, I'd be cool with Vetrano. I'd be cool with Zook. I don't know what other type of third line centers are really out there on the market, but I would try to button those two things up if you can. Then you have to worry about cap and all that shit and money and numbers. That's not my thing. So, all right, let's just we're gonna do 3 stars. So let me play this music real quick. Hell yeah, Brownie. All right, 3 stars. So we talked about the open skate that you do earlier where, you know, you kind of get to hang out with some NHLers. You kind of skate around the rink. You ask them what I think are cool questions. So I want to know what 3 people you'd want to take on an open skate. And I didn't really, you know, specify. This can be a hockey player. This could be anybody. Anybody in the world that you want to take on an open skate. So who would your 3 stars be?
First guy that comes to mind is Justin Bieber.
The Biebs, dude. That would be pretty cool, huh?
I mean, he's just the coolest guy on the planet. Like, I don't think anyone can deny that.
He's a modern day rock star.
Modern day rock star. Yeah, he'd be cool. Trying to think, like, people I just like love. The Sandman, maybe. Adam Sandler would be a good one.
That would be good. Do you think he'd
I mean,
have
I do
like long basketball shorts on, or you think he'd
probably, yeah, he'd probably have the Sandler fit on. And maybe like it's tough. I was gonna say like Post Malone. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, dude. He seems like a cool dude, man.
Yeah, he is. He seems like a cool dude.
Like, he just kind of gets it, right?
Yeah, he does. He's the homie from what it seems like. But like hockey players, definitely would love one with bread. Like, I think he'd be awesome. Who's another guy that I would love to do in the NHL? Dylan Larkin would be a cool one, I think. He's an under the radar guy. He's a beauty. Everyone loves him.
Yeah. He seems to be just getting beat up every single time he's on the ice, dude. Just like freak things keep happening to him. I feel bad.
He's having a rough go.
You know, it'd be cool. Dustin Bufflin would be sick.
You think so? What's going on with him? I haven't heard his name in a long time.
He retired from hockey. I don't know if it's like legit retired from hockey, but he became like a professional bass fisherman.
Oh, really?
Dude, like he would during the off season, he would just eat nothing but cheeseburgers. Come in like 300, and they'd be like, "Hey, Dusty, you got to figure this out." And then a couple weeks later, be right back to where he's just my spirit animal, dude. Like, he just seems
hilarious.
Like
I haven't heard that name in a long time. That's funny. Dustin Bufflin. Yeah, those names would be cool, I think.
Right. Well, thanks, dude. Well, tell our listeners where they can follow you and what shows are on nowadays.
Well, yeah, thank you, Jimmy. I appreciate it. It's been fun. And you can just follow me on Twitter, JLazzy23. It's basically where I put all my shit. Instagram, I guess, Jonny Lazarus, just my name. And yeah, you can catch me every morning, Monday to Thursday, on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel for Morning Cup of Hockey. Bring on a ton of guests, former players, media members, all the good stuff. And it's been a lot of fun. We try to keep it light. We say it's informally formal, but yeah, that's pretty much all I got. So thank you, Jimmy. I really appreciate it.
No, thanks for coming on, man. This was a blast. I love talking rags or jers with the boys.
Yeah,
And
cheers, baby. Talking jers.
yeah, dude, and keep up the good work, dude. Like you're a must follow if you're a Rangers fan. Definitely must follow him, must follow Vince. It's just you do a really good job, dude. You make sure that we kind of have a pulse on what's going on the team. So
Thank you. Appreciate that.
myself and Rangers fans across the world, thank you, dude. So thanks for hopping on. Guys, check him out, and thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you guys soon.